Hello everyone and welcome to this Microsoft Reactor workshop this evening. My name is Erika and I am the program manager at Microsoft Reactor Stockholm. In today's session, we will walk through the suite of features that Form Recognizer offers and how you can leverage those in your applications. Before we begin, I just want to say a quick word about Microsoft Code of Conduct. We all come from a different background, but we are all here to learn. So please be aware of each other and be welcoming and respectful to all points of views. Thank you. Now, I would like to introduce you to our speaker today, Peter Örneholm. Peter is a husband, a father, and he's passionate about Azure. He's an AI MVP, a Microsoft Azure specialist, and a full-stack developer working for a company called Active Solutions here in Stockholm. During today's hands-on demo, he is going to show you everything about the Form Recognizer. I can't get you here. I'm sorry. My screen is frozen. Peter, are you there?
I am here and I can hear you clearly.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just I paused there for a second. I'm like, oof. All right, but yes, I got you here. My screen froze. But yes, thank you, Peter, for being actually back. You've done quite a few sessions here with us today. Not today, but the past few months for the React.
Yeah.
So it's great to have you back, and I'm very much looking forward to have today's session about the Form Recognizer, which is something new. I haven't seen you talking about this before. So I'm super interested.
Thank you, Erika. And let's start my slide here.
Yes.
Let's see. Am I on air, so to say?
You are on air indeed.
Yeah.
And my screen is not frozen anymore, so
Great. I'll start. So thank you for the introduction, Erika. And for those of you interested in following me digitally, here's my blog post and my Twitter handle and also my Instagram handle if you'd like to join in there. And thank you for inviting me back. As you said, I've been talking about cognitive services and AI in this series before. And at that time, I was talking about quite a broad spectrum of services and Azure in the broad sense. But now I've done prepared a session fully focused on the Form Recognizer service in Azure. So I'm looking forward to share that with you. First, just 5 seconds of who I am and where I work. I'm an IT consultant living and working in Stockholm, and I work for the company called Active Solution. And we are working a lot with .NET, C# and Azure with everything that is. And we are, of course, looking for more bright people to join us. But for today, the agenda is short. I'll give you an introduction to Form Recognizer. There will be a lot of demos and use cases and how to use it. And there will be time for questions. And please, if you have any questions along the way, write them in the chat. I think you are watching through YouTube. Write them in the chat and they will appear on my screen for me to answer them either along the way if I have time, or we will look at them at the end. So here we go. First of all, then, what is Form Recognizer, or what is the broader picture of AI in Azure? So I just wanted to show you this kind of hierarchy that we have in Azure. We have Azure machine learning as a fundament for working with AI in Azure and working with machine learning, where you can train your models, you can use GPU, and you can go kind of low level. On top of that, we have Azure Cognitive Services and the custom scenarios where we get kind of the full spectrum, where we can leverage speech recognition, we can do image recognition, and so on. But the interesting thing is that on top of these services, Microsoft have built and are providing us with the Azure Applied AI services, which kind of is more tailored to specific use cases, where we have, for example, video analyzer that can analyze video We have a bot service where we can have an interactive chat and so on. But what we will be looking at today is the Azure Form Recognizer, tailored and specialized at understanding documents and forms. And then you might be thinking, and as the kind of subtitle of this session was the next generation, the next level OCR. And you might be thinking, we have had OCR for ages. I remember seeing these kind of tools when I grew up. I never had one myself, but they were able to kind of scan text in a book, and you plugged it in with USB into your computer, and you could transfer that text. And of course, there have been techniques for quite a long time on actually recognizing letters and characters. But a modern OCR is so much more than that. If we just look at kind of the OCR technology, the core OCR service in Azure, to begin with, kind of the problem is also much more complex. Previously, an OCR were probably able to kind of get a grasp of a text that was written from left to right, that was machine written with kind of in a good quality and so on. But nowadays, you probably want to, or you might have scenarios where you want to identify text that is much more complex. You might want to extract text and extract news articles that is written in columns that doesn't have like the standard from top left to bottom right scenario. You might want to extract information and text from handwritten letters and from handwritten text. And there is more languages than English. There is Swedish with our special characters. There is Arabic, and there are languages written from right to left, and a broad spectrum of scenarios we have. So if you just kind of look at the marketing picture, so to say, from the Microsoft OCR team, if we look at the OCR capability within computer vision, these are a few of the key features. The list is much longer, but these are a few things that I think is really impressive and really kind of standing out in relation to traditional OCR. So, for example, it supports over 164 languages to be extracted and understood. We have handwritten text extraction for 9 languages. We have and another thing is that you don't need to yourself identify the language. You don't need to specify this is a Swedish document, this is an English document. The service can identify that itself. And more importantly, it supports mixed language and mixed mode, so that we can have a document where parts of it might be written in Swedish, part might be written in English, and it can detect line by line and so on what languages are represented here and what languages do we have in this document. Another thing is the natural reading order. I will show a demo of this, but as you saw, if we have a news article, that's usually written in columns from the left column to the second column and to the third column. And then when you are running this through an OCR service, you usually want to have the natural reading order extracted instead of just kind of top left to bottom right. And another interesting thing is that these can be, even though it's a cloud service, they can be distributed as Docker containers. And I'll get back to that in the end. And what Form Recognizer adds to this equation is that it's more than just OCR. It kind of adds the layer above that where Form Recognizer realizes that the team who built this realizes that there are scenarios when you want to extract kind of information from the picture, not just the text, but the contextual information. Usually an image with text or a document or a form might have some structure. There might be tables, there might be checkboxes, there might be kind of layout that we want to extract. So if we take a few use cases, for example, you might have a receipt. This is from a Swedish shop where there's like a food store, basically. We might want to extract kind of what's the total amount for this receipt, what's the tax, what's the purchase date, and so on, because that might be valuable information to our expense system. There are forms that you fill in, and we'll get back to a specific demo on exactly this form. But there are forms when you are talking to authorities or talking to, in this case, the Swedish police. You might have to fill in specific forms, and that information it could be valuable to extract automatically and get into a computer system. We have like unstructured forms, more or less legal documents and so on, where there are structured information in that document, like how long does this apply for, what happens if you don't do this or if you do that, and so on. So there are information in it, but it's usually written in kind of and hidden in sentences and so on. We have scenarios where there are kind of product information. You like what is the specification of this vacuum cleaner, or what is the specification of this color for the wall and so on. And we will also look at a demo on that. And last but not least, a lot of us have passports which contain structured information, and this is just a sample passport, not exposing any personal identifiable information there, but there might be scenarios where you want to scan a passport or scan an ID card and actually get out the information that's in there. And if we look at all of these scenarios, we realize we're living in 2022. We have had computers for a long time. We have had ways of structuring information for a long time. And still, a lot of information are being handled and are being kind of exchanged in kind of analog formats. Like when talking between IT systems, you might actually be doing file export to PDF, sending that PDF to the next company. That company kind of writes the information from the PDF into their system and so on. And when you, in Sweden, for example, we are in a movement on actually digitalizing the receipts, but kind of the majority of all stores in Sweden are still printing the receipts on a paper that you bring home, and you might kind of lose it and so on. And in passports, even if there are scenarios where there are digital passports, you kind of the international way to identify yourself is through this physical passport that you have. So in the best of worlds, a lot of these would be replaced with kind of computer readable formats, like an XML file or a JSON file or a CSV file or a digital certificate or a REST call to some API. But we realize also that things are what they are, and we can't change the whole world in one night. And so kind of while we are working on making these things structured, while we're working on making kind of standards and the ways to handle them like pure digital, like signing in with our digital ID, filling in an online form, or taking that information from some profile or something like that, or handling all of our receipts in a digital way, kind of ending up in our OneDrive or whatever. Until we reach that point, we really want to find a way that where we can work with these documents and work with these forms and work with this kind of information and extract that kind of information in an efficient and automated way. And not talking about all the history you have, like through the years there have been like millions and billions of these documents issued that won't be digitalized. And if we want to find out structured information about them, we need a service to handle that. So here is where Form Recognizer comes into play. So if we agree on that for the foreseeable future there will be manual documents, Form Recognizer is a service that helps us to make them structured. Form Recognizer is a service that can be the kind of the bridge between the analog and the manual world into the digital world. And that is what we will be looking at today, how this service works and how it can handle these scenarios. And Form Recognizer is a service built on top of the Microsoft OCR service. So it relies on that, on all those key features, as I showed you, supporting 164 languages, supporting handwritten text, supporting everything that we know from the OCR, but it adds value on top of that. So the base part is that we have a feature called document analysis. With document analysis, we can tell it, I want to read this document. Please give me all the text. It might be a PDF with like 70 pages. It might be a photo of a document, a photo of a news article. That more or less gives you the text within the document. Doesn't take that much into account what the layout is and so on. So it's kind of the OCR service itself. But then you can go into the layout service and the layout feature. The layout feature will find, for example, if there's a table in the document, it will find if there are checkboxes and so on. And building on top of that is the general document analysis feature, where it can also detect that, okay, this checkbox seems to have a label next to it. So I'll name this checkbox whatever the label says. Okay, this field seems to have a label attached to it. So I will label this given name, or I will label this company name and so on. And that gives you a way to, without training anything yourself, you can extract structured information from a document. I'll demo everything of this in a minute. Then we have pre-built models tailored to specific use cases, tailored to specific forms and types of documents. So the pre-built models are today available for example, invoices, receipts, business cards, and identity documents. So with that, if you hand it a receipt, it will tell you what is the total amount, what is the tax, what is the name of the merchant, what is the date of the transaction, and so on. If you hand it a business card, it will tell you, like if anyone uses business cards these days, I'm not sure, but it will tell you what's the title of the person, what's the name of the person, what is the phone number, and so on. And if you hand it an identity document, it will tell you structured information about that as well. There is also a few other pre-built models. A lot of them are tailored for the United States market, with like tax forms and American COVID passports and things like that. I won't be demoing them today because I'm not really aware of that domain. And on top of this, we have the custom models. And the custom models is where you can train a model yourself that's tailored to your specific domain, to your specific document. So when the general model in the document analysis part, or when the layout kind of fails you, you can train it. You can hand it like, here's 10, 15, 20, 100 documents, and tell it, please look at these documents. And you can tell it like, this is the given name, this is the company name, this is this and that, and so on. And it will learn and be better and better on actually extracting such information. So let's dive into a demo. And I will try to give you a use case for each and every of these, so that you understand how it can be used. And when working with Form Recognizer, this is a cloud service by default. So you'll have to do some preparation. I will not show you exactly how that is done, but Form Recognizer is an Azure service. You would go into the Azure portal and say, I want a Form Recognizer service, and I want some storage where my data will be stored, and so on. Or you would script this through some kind of scripting if you're using scripts and automating your infrastructure. In all kind of the tutorials for Form Recognizer, these steps are detailed, so I will not use the time of this session to show you, but use a prerequisite for doing this yourself. And then the case in this case, I will show you the demo with something called a byggvarudeklaration. It's a very, very Swedish word, but before I became a consultant, I was working within the kind of construction industry, I would say, with IT. I was working with IT within that industry. And one thing that is available in Swedish is kind of a declaration of what products contains. Like, if you are about to put this color or paint on the wall, what's kind of the content of that product? If you are to install a new window on your house, what does that window contain of? What's the information, so to say? And that's available in a document called byggvarudeklaration. And the interesting part with this document, I know that nowadays there is kind of a digital specification available in XML format. As I said, eventually I think a lot of these things will be digital, but there is a huge kind of amount of documents already available as these more or less PDF files. So the way these were created usually was that the companies downloaded the Word template, they filled in their data, they clicked file export to PDF and published on their websites and made these documents available. So it was kind of a semi-structured in a way. You know, it was digital available, but it was based on a Word template, and the people could add more or less rows. They could, if they wanted to, kind of fiddle around in the document and so on. But what I would like to show you now is how we can take this document, send it to the Form Recognizer service, and actually get some structured information out of it. So let's dive into the demo. And I will bring up let's see.
Before you start your demo, we actually have can you see the Twitch comments on your screen?
Yeah, I can see them.
Yeah, so we have a question. So maybe, yeah, just before you get into your demo.
So let's start from top there. StreamYard, Reactor. If your credit card number is on the receipt, does still happen. Is the data secure, encrypted, being sent to the cloud, or any advice here? So that's a good question. So to begin with, I think all of the cases I've seen so far myself is that usually the kind of the whole credit card number is not available on the receipt. They usually mask out kind of the middle part of it with stars. But kind of if we take like data security encryption in general, I would say it's kind of it's a more general question. Can you send this data to the cloud? Are there anything you need to consider and so on? But the document needs to be kind of analyzed by the Form Recognizer service. If you are in a scenario where you want to analyze a document or a file without sending it to the public cloud, you can run these services, and this service specifically, as a Docker container. We'll get back to that in the end. So if you, for either legal reasons or for any other reason, don't want to send the file to the public cloud, you could run it on your servers or on premise, so to say. So let's bring up this demo. So this is the Form Recognizer Studio. And Form Recognizer Studio, because Form Recognizer in itself is a service in Azure that exposes everything through an API. So you train your model through the API, you use the service through the API, and you can kind of browse the models you're trained through the API and so on. But for demo purposes and for working with the models and kind of training the models and trying them out, you usually don't want to sit with API calls to do that. And especially now that we are working with something that's actually visual, like documents. And then Microsoft have built this Form Recognizer Studio. So you sign in with your Azure account, and then you can actually explore this. So beforehand, you need to create this Form Recognizer service, or it might actually help you out with that. I can't really remember, but I've already created it, and I've connected my Form Recognizer Studio to that account. So we'll start with the read service. So this is, we can take this, just begin with actually analyzing this document that's provided with by Microsoft. So if we analyze this document, it will detect all the text. We can see that, okay, within this box, this is the text that extracted and so on. But the really interesting part here is the flow here. So it's been analyzed within natural reading order, so to say. So we have two columns here. So the text goes on and goes on, and it stops here with the need for constant finger pricks to check glucose level. So if we search for that, you can see here that line 47 is constant finger pricks to check glucose levels. And next line, Tandem was able to create goes on up here. So a lot of OCR services have previously mostly been reading from top left to bottom right, which made it when you extracted text like this, they were you had to do some manual handling of it, because usually they were not in the correct order. But this is able to identify what's the most natural order of reading this and giving you a really good extract of that. But let's analyze our own custom file instead. So I will be using this BVD as I was mentioning. So this is a Swedish document. So you might not recognize all the characters, but you get the point. So if I analyze this through the read API, this will get me all the text, but that's doesn't really provide that much value, because it's just a huge amount of text here. There are checkboxes, there is yes, there is no. What does it really mean? I don't really know. And you can see here, this is the underlying. If you know the technical parts of these things, this is what's called JSON. So this is the structured information that can be used by a computer program to actually make something make sense out of it. But let's move on into not read, but layout. So this is where it really gets interesting. So I'll add my document again. And this is really exciting. You know, a couple of years ago, I didn't think I would be excited by analyzing documents, but it's quite cool actually what can be done. So what you can see now is that it has visualized that, okay, I detected it has detected like text. So you still get the text that's floating around, so to say. But then it says, okay, there seems to be a table here that I've detected. So if you click on that, you can actually see that it identified the structure of the table, it identified the rows and the columns, and it identified the text within that one. It also identified checkboxes and if they were checked or not. So it's not just the the ASCII stuff, it actually detected there is a checkbox and that checked and this is not checked. So this can be used, if we go down here, this can be used to extract structured information from these documents. So it's still, the layout part is focused on layout. It doesn't really connect labels with data, but rather focusing on general layout information. So let's take it to the last level called general documents. And I'll add and analyze the same document again. And I just want to point out that these, I haven't pre-trained any model. I haven't taught it about this big word declaration in any way. It's just general document analysis. So you could provide it with any document. And the great thing now with general document analysis here is that we actually get key value pair extraction automatically. So if we say, for example, this checkbox, now it identifies, okay, there's a checkbox and the label for it seems to be ändrad deklaration, which basically says, is this changed or not? So then we can see at the right here, okay, the changed declaration checkbox is selected, while the new one is unselected. And the no thing here is selected, or not is selected, and the yes, ja is unselected. We get the organization number. Let's see where we have that one. Over there. So that's this value. So it even though both of these ones are printed by a computer, but it still identifies, okay, this seems to be the label and this seems to be the value. So it can separate what's the label and what's the value and give you a structured information on that. And this could, of course, be really valuable if you have a set of documents that you want to extract information from. You might want to make it searchable, indexable. You might want to take these documents, put it into some ordering systems, whatnot. But this is really impressive what you could do without actually training any model yourself. And with every value, it also gets the confidence on that specific property. What's the confidence on this actually being unselected? What's the confidence on actually this being this specific value? And again, you can take this information, and so to say parse it from the JSON so that you can use it in a computer program. And my last demo will actually be showing you how to use the API to call the Form Recognizer service through code. And that was the document analysis part. Now let's move into pre-built models. And with that, I just want to introduce you to that area with another use case. And in this case, I will show you a few pre-built models. But one case that we did at Active Solution, we had a hackathon during the pandemic. I think it was 2 years ago now. During the time where you could actually meet in small groups. So we split the company in many small groups and made a hackathon. And the idea was to use any kind of AI service to build something valuable. And our team actually took on expense reporting. So our idea was that can't we make it easier to do expense reporting? And we wanted to make it like as fast as possible while still being responsible on how it was done. So what we did was we were using Power Apps or the Power Platform in this case, because we had limited time and we wanted to focus on the AI parts and not on actually doing all of the coding and making the app and so on. So what we did was, I think it was quite clever. We realized, okay, how can we make it as fast as possible to actually take a photo of your receipt to do the expense reporting? We realized everyone in the team was basically syncing and making a backup of their camera roll through OneDrive. So we set up that we were just taking, like, we brought our receipt, took our camera or our cell phone, took a photo of the receipt, and that would almost immediately be synced and backed up to our OneDrive. So whenever OneDrive realized there's a new photo available, it would tell Azure Form Recognizer, or rather ask Form Recognizer, is this a receipt? And if it was a receipt, it would call our expense reporting system and actually creating a draft for an expense for us. And when that was done, it would send a push notification to our phone saying, okay, I found a receipt in your camera roll, in this case from Starbucks for $13. And it was from 2007-01-30. So this was an old receipt we used as an example. And when you clicked on that approval request, it would ask you, does this seem legit? Is this a receipt that's meant for doing an expense report and so on? And if you replied yes, it will actually confirm that expense and kind of hand it in, so to say. So it would end up here, and this is roughly how the flow ended up. So we were using Power Automate. I think it's Power Automate Flow called nowadays to do the flow, and we were using the connector to Form Recognizer to actually parse the receipt and ask it, is this a receipt? And if it's a receipt, kind of bring out all the valuable information from it. So let's dive into this specific area in Form Recognizer Studio. And of course, we can start with the receipt. So let's take a Swedish receipt in this case, like this one. I know that the receipt model is not trained for Swedish receipt, but we have seen that it's very, very good still at extracting the valuable information from Swedish receipts. So if you are aware of the limitations, and if you are aware that this is not a perfect system and kind of still involve manual checking and manual kind of safety checks to do this responsibly, I think there are scenarios where this can be used even for non-American and non-English receipts. I think there are a few languages it's been trained on. But in this case, it's a company called Kjell and Company. I was buying a few kind of adapters and things like that. I think I was going to do some conference. I needed a few adapters and a few charging cables. There's this cost, and there is a transaction date available somewhere. But if we analyze this one, will actually get all of that information for us. So as you can see, the yellow boxes shows that, okay, I found text in this file, but the boxes that have some border, that's actually something that it extracted as more specialized, as domain-specific information, so to say, for a receipt. For example, what is the merchant name? Yeah, it's Shell & Company. What's the merchant phone number? What is the, if we look at, we have the items. So it extracted a table of items, 1, 2, 3, the description, and the total price for that one. We could see the total amount for this receipt, 707.9 Swedish kronor. We have the total tax, we have the transaction date, and we have the transaction time. And a lot of these fields actually maps very, very well to what you need to enter in an expense reporting system. You need the transaction time, you need the tax, you need the total amount, and so on. You might have additional fields that needs to be added, but this is a really good start. So let's look at more of the pre-built models. We have invoice, which is very similar, but instead of receipts, it's for invoices. I will skip that for now. Instead, I can do the business cards. There is a business card provided by Microsoft as a sample. If we analyze that, so even if it's kind of skewed, it's laying on a table, and someone took a picture of it, it still is being able to identify the company name, the last name, the first name, the job title, department, email, website, phone numbers, the fax address, the address, and so on. So it's able to do a lot of those extraction. So in this case, you could build some business card to LinkedIn profile thing, or you could do set up a flow where it scans your camera roll for business cards and kind of adds them to your contact list. I don't know, but the model is there for you to start using right away. We have the same with identity documents. Let's take this passport, for example. I'm not sure if you know, but the bottom part of the passport is actually kind of a compact way of telling everything that's available, or most of the stuff available on the top. So if we analyze this one, it will look at the bottom part here. And if we drill into the details, you can actually see the date of birth, date of expiration, document number, the name, nationality, and so on. So this could be used if you are in the travel industry, or if you are in any way needs to quickly extract and find information from passports or from ID cards. I think the ID license is trained for the American market, the United States, while the ID passport is international because of how this bottom part works here. And then, as I mentioned, there are a few other pre-built models. They are primarily for the US market. Like I think this is for tax information or something related to that. We have health insurance card for the US market, and we have the vaccinations card for the US COVID-19. So these are I'm not kind of into that domain, so I don't really know that much about it. But let's move on to the very interesting part of custom models. So I will close this down and let's do this. Let's see if there are any questions before we move on. Sorry if this was explained before. I joined a bit late. Will it handle scanned images and saved to PDF? So that's a really good question from a YouTube viewer here. And yes, the service handles PDFs, it handles images, and it handles PDFs that contains of images. And actually, the next demo I will show you are images, not images within PDFs, but it is images taken by the phone. So, and we can look at the supported file formats later on as well if we have time. But let's move into the custom models, and I just wanted to start with a personal story here on kind of why I'm doing this demo. I'm planning on maybe making a service out of it. And the case is around Swedish passports, or rather issuing Swedish passports. We in Sweden love to travel. We live in a fantastic country. So me and my family are traveling a lot within Sweden, but from time to time also traveling abroad. And that's a very we're not alone on doing that. Sweden's people love to travel either to the Nordics or to Europe or all around the world. And to do that, you need a passport, of course. And in Sweden, it's the Swedish police or the police department that issues passports. And during the pandemic, kind of no one was traveling, or not no one, but like basically no one were traveling around the world. And during the last 2 to 3 years, a lot of passports have expired or are about to be expired. So now that you are allowed, or at least we in Sweden are allowed to do some traveling again, we need to renew our passports. And if you look at the Google Trends for issuing passport in Swedish for the last 5 years, I think you can see a trend here. I think it's around summertime or something like that. Kind of issuing passports takes off, and it takes off. And then during the last couple of weeks, the demand for issuing passports in Sweden have been huge. Kind of, it's in Swedish news every day, and people are debating it on Twitter. Like, this is the amount of time you need to wait. This is kind of, people are selling slots in the line for passports on the black market, and you need kind of. So here's is someone who had to travel 8 hours to the closest passport place that had available times. And I was actually reading this morning, a friend of mine on Facebook said that the next available passport time to issue a new passport in Sweden is now in January. So we are more than 6 months away, or is it more than 7 months away actually, on actually getting a time to take a photograph and issue a new passport for you. And that is what it is. Of course, this should be more efficient, and the way of handling this could be more digital and so on. But what I wanted to talk about is that if you're issuing passports for your children, so in this case, it's my son, Elliot. He is now 2 years old, and he's really kind of looking like this Swedish character, Emil in Lönneberg. I'm not sure if you have read or seen the book or video by Astrid Lindgren. So Elliot, he's as he kind of he really looks and acts like this Emil, and it's actually his favorite movie. He dresses up like him, and it's kind of his idol, I think. But we are actually about to travel soon, and we have been we were about to travel with him during the pandemic, or before the pandemic came. And when you, as a parent in Sweden, want to issue a passport, if not both of the parents are actually at the police department at the same time. So in my case, I was actually going with Elliot to issue the passport, but my wife was working. And then you need kind of to fill in this form that looks like this, saying that the other parent or the other one taking care of the child actually gives acceptance on issuing this passport. And we have learned the lesson last time that if you fill in this in an incorrect way, they will say, no, this is not the correct way of filling in this form. Please go home, fill it in correctly, and stand last in the line again. And knowing that there is now a 7-month wait on actually getting that passport, you really don't want to fill this in incorrectly. In our case, we had missed out on actually filling in one of those checkboxes. It could look very obvious that you need to check one of those in, but in the same way, there are fields that you should not fill in. You yourself shouldn't fill in the date or the kind of internal number up here, but you should fill in one of those checkboxes and so on. And usually you are quite stressed. In our case, like you realize, oh, tomorrow morning I'm going to the police department to get this passport thing. We need to fill in this form really quickly, and you might be missing out on fields. So my idea here is that when you're calm and when you can actually read through all the fields and when you can think clearly, it's not that hard to realize what are the rules on how to fill this in. What if we could do a kind of pre-validate so that you feel more comfortable that you've filled it in correctly before you go to the police department, and realize that you have missed a checkbox and have to go home again, wait another 7 months. So my idea was, can we create some kind of app for this? Basically filling in the form manually, take a photo of it, send it to the service, pre-validate it, and tell you what you have missed and what you have done correctly. So I want to bring up the demo here. And now it should be another window, so it's this window. So what I've done is that I've used the custom model version. So with the custom model, you can provide it with samples on how your document looks, and then you could tell it this field is the for example, in this case, you can't do this, but you could say that this field is the personal identity number for this person, and you can be comfortable. Everything in this is just made up, and it's kind of official, non-identifiable personal information in this document. So I'm not exposing any specific person here. And this is the last name of this person. This is the first name of the person. So this is the length of the person. And all of these fields needs to be filled in correctly, because you're actually signing the document that the above information is entered correctly and so on. So you can't really miss out on a field, sign the document, go to the police station and fill it in afterwards, because then you have signed the document, you have signed information that wasn't there. So with this document, me and my colleagues filled in a few files. So I think I have in total 8 of them or 7 of them that's actually tagged. And you can, to improve the accuracy, to improve how the document is analyzed, you can add more documents with more samples on different ways of filling it in. And the way you work with this tool to tag it is to say, okay, it found some text there, in this case, Larsson, and that's the last name of the person that is about to have the passport issued. And this is the first name. I've used exactly, sorry for the Swedish stuff here, but I've used exactly what's said in the document to not have any kind of issues on when I'm extracting the information. So we do that, and I think I might have actually uploaded the text document here. Yes, it is. So this is I will not train the model on this document, because this is what I will actually be testing the document with. So you tell it a lot about the information. You tell it this is a checkbox. You can tell it that this is a field of the type. It's a string, it's a number, it's a date, might be time, integer, and so on. And then I guess that information can be used by the service to actually improve the accuracy. We can also teach it about signatures. So we're not like, when we come to signatures, we're not really interested in exactly what it says, because usually a signature is just, it doesn't make sense what it says. It's your personal way of identifying yourself. But then we could instead say, within this region, I'm expecting a signature. Within this region, I'm expecting a signature, and so on. And that can then be used to say, is this field signed or not? Unfortunately, I haven't trained it with enough documents to get the correct result out of that. But it could be really, I work with companies saying, okay, a lot of our clients are sending, like, they are filling in the forms, they are filling in everything correct, but they forget to sign the document. So we need to kind of send it back and say, hey, please sign it before you send it in, and then do that. So with this kind of thing, you could pre-validate it before sending in the physical paper. And once you have trained your model, I think you need at least 5 documents, but with the more documents you add, the better accuracy you get. So now I have, let's start from the very beginning here. I'm analyzing this document. So this document, it haven't really seen before. I used it as a kind of sample before here, but so now we can get information like, what is the phone number? What is the birth date here? What is the signature, or is it signed or not? What is the length? What is the name, and so on? Is this checkbox selected or not? and with this document, I've actually filled it in quite badly, just to be able to show you how we can use this to validate it. I have so far not built any app, or I haven't built any kind of customer-friendly service, but I built a small console application for you to see how could this be used. So if you're into code, you will probably understand a bit of this. So what I've done is upload a few documents, tagged it, labeled it, trained a model. So you pretty much say, let's see. You're creating a model trained on your data, so we can have multiple versions. We can train a new model, see will it get better or worse, and you could basically have multiple models. So now I've created a small C# console application. This console application will create a form recognizer client. It will analyze the document, start analyze document from URI. So I pointed it to the file that is bad, so to say. And then we are extracting some information here. So I created a subset of the form and a model for that. So I'm parsing what is the surname, or the last name, what is the first name, and so on. I'm actually seeing that I have a copy-paste issue here. Let's do this. What is the personal identifiable number? What is the length, and so on? And then I know a few rules here, saying, for example, I'm expecting the personal identity number to be filled in. So tell me if it's forgotten. But this field at the bottom of the page is actually that should be filled in by the police department and not ourselves. So this is not expected to be filled in. And another thing is the metadata. So the kind of what is the internal police number for this document? We shouldn't fill in that ourselves either. And the date shouldn't be filled either. That's filled in by the person when we get to the police station. So now let's run this application. So it's analyzing the document. Takes some time. And then the results should be plotted here. So I've used if you're into C#, I can highly recommend the Spectre console library to make nice console applications. So in this case, it showed me, and let's see if I can bring up the actual document in parallel here, so that we are Recognizer. So here is the actual document. Whoops. So we could say that on the type here, it's expected exact one type to be checked. You can't check multiple. You need to check exactly one. It expected the date to be empty, but it is filled in. It expected the diary number not to be filled in, and it is empty. So that's a green one on this one. On this one, it turned out that we actually forgot to enter the length of Olle in this case, but we entered all of the other fields correctly. And at the bottom here, we actually filled in this one, so we misunderstood it, and this explicitly says that this is filled in by the authority or the police department, but we filled it in. So with this in mind, we need to print a new form, fill it in correctly, and have all the green boxes before going to police department, and feel slightly more comfortable that we will get accepted when we get there, and doesn't have to wait another 6 months. So with that, I'd like to do some wrap up before the session is over. As I mentioned, your application will by default be talking to the public cloud, but Form Recognizer can be deployed as Docker containers in your data center, in the private cloud, or on the edge, or wherever you need to do that. If you, for either, you might have latency reasons that you want to do much quicker analysis, or you might have legal reasons or compliance reasons that you can't send your data to the public cloud. So that's available as Docker containers. The pricing, it's easiest for you just to Google Form Recognizer pricing, but it's based on the amount of pages you are analyzing. So if you send it a document with 10 pages, that's kind of, you will be billed by those 10 pages. Or if you send an image of 1 page, that's 1 page. And it slightly differs, or it's kind of quite a big difference if you're using the pre-built models or your custom models. There's a difference there between them. There are also commitment tiers available. So if you're analyzing larger amount of data, you can get some savings on that one. And I got a question before here. Before moving into the rest of the questions, let's look at the Form Recognizer supported file types. That was a question. Let's do. I'm not sure if it differs from them, but in this case it says PDF and TIFF and images JPEG, PNG, and BMP. And I know for a fact that you can have images within a PDF that's being analyzed as well. And with that, I think we are ready to move on to questions. We have a few minutes left before my time is over, I think. And I will start looking at the questions in the chat, and please write any more if you have any. So Fred from YouTube here asked, is there a mechanism to scan and convert tabular data row and column into CSV or Excel files? Maybe you can highlight that question, Erika, if that's possible. So there is no built-in tool, as I'm aware of, as in kind of upload the file, do that, and download the Excel file. But all the information can be extracted so that you could easily build such a tool yourself if you're into programming, or if you're into or kind of how to work with this systematically through programming. So Form Recognizer will help you on taking the tabular data, making that into a JSON file, and that JSON file could then be converted into a CSV or Excel file. That's a very, very good scenario for Form Recognizer. So it's not built into the Form Recognizer Studio, as I'm aware of, but you can build that yourself. So a follow-up question from the nickname Napalm684. If you're reading this right, is there still a fee to pay when we are using Docker containers locally? What are we paying for? So that's totally right. You're still using kind of, Microsoft is providing you with this service. You will be running the Docker container yourself, but kind of hosting and running the container is the small job. Microsoft have done a huge amount of work on making this service, where they have trained the generic models. They have pre-trained models so that you can, with only 5 documents, actually get a custom model. So what Microsoft have invested a lot, I guess, a lot of time and money in is to make the Form Recognizer service. So you are basically paying the license fee or the fee to use such service, even if you're hosting the model locally. So that's you still need to kind of pay for someone to have done that work. Then we have a question: what is Azure? That's a public cloud, or Microsoft, the Microsoft cloud. I won't go into much more of that an explanation of Azure, but there are a lot of great resources out there on what Azure is. Next question: how to train Form Recognizer to recognize table? There are 2 options: static table and dynamic table. Not sure what are the difference of them and when you should use static or dynamic. Yeah, that's a good question. That I don't have an answer to right away. I could try to get back on that one, but yeah, I don't have a clear answer on that one at the moment, unfortunately. I think that was all of the questions so far.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
Did you answer Slotvek's question from YouTube about scanning images and save to PDFs?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So
Okay.
I brought it up previously.
Okay. Well, with that, if we have no more questions coming in, I want to say a huge thank you to you, Peter, for being back again. But definitely not the last time. I'm sure we are going to be seeing you a lot more in the upcoming month. So yeah, let's just see. There's no more questions. No more questions coming in. So yeah, thank you so much again, Peter, and I'll let you go back to your children and wife. Enjoy the rest of the evening with them. So thank you, and guys out there, thank you for being with us, for both on Twitch and on YouTube. I see you soon. Have a nice evening or day or morning or wherever you are in the world. Thank you for being with us today. Bye.
Thank you for joining. Bye.